Hebrews say they always black. We say we talk to God, we won't never say he talking back. Lex Luger flexing from these reverends like they torture racks.
Okay, let's read this Luke 9:49 and following. And John answered and said, Master, we saw one casting out devils in thy name, and we forbade him, because he followeth not us. He followeth not with us. He don't follow us. But he casting out demons, right? And Jesus said unto him, Forbade him not, for he that is not against us is for us. And it came to pass, when the time was come that he should be received up, he steadfastly set his face to go to Jerusalem, and sent his messengers before his face. And they went and entered into a village of the Samaritans to make ready for him. And they did not receive him, because his face was as though he would go to Jerusalem. Now, I want you to look at this verse 53, because it says, and they did not receive him, because his face was set to go in another direction. So if Jesus' face was set to go in another direction, who do you blame? Who is the cause for these people not receiving Jesus if his face was already set to go somewhere else? How can you blame the people for that? Let me read it again. It says, and they did not receive him, because his face was as though he would go to Jerusalem. So how can you blame people for not receiving you if you have your face set or your heart fixed, your mind set on going somewhere else? Verse 44 says, and when his disciples James and John saw this, they said, Lord, wilt thou that we command fire to come down from heaven and consume them, even as Elias did? But he turned and rebuked them and said, ye know not what manner of spirit ye are of. Now, it's interesting that when James and John wanted to call fire down from heaven, that Jesus would rebuke them. Why did Jesus rebuke them for doing something that Elijah did in the Old Testament? Because Jesus said they don't know what kind of spirit they got to be thinking like that. So what kind of spirit did Elijah have? Why didn't God rebuke Elijah for calling fire down from heaven? Didn't he do the same thing? That's all they saying. They saying, Lord, let us do what Elijah did and get rid of these cats. Make it rain fire down from heaven. And Jesus rebuked them. So how contradictory is that for Jesus to rebuke the disciples for following the example of one of the greatest prophets in the Bible? They just only following what he did. Right? So what spirit did Elijah have? That's the question we have to ask. Why is Jesus rebuking the disciples if God did not rebuke Elijah for what he did? And what spirit did Elijah have for doing what he did? It says, but he turned and rebuked them. So if we go down a little further, I think in the next couple of verses, Jesus says he didn't come to destroy people, but he came to save people. But in Revelations, he's coming back to do just that. So did he change his mind? Because the first time the earth was destroyed by water, the next time it's going to be with fire. That same fire that Elijah called down, that same fire that the disciples, James and John, wanted to call down on these people, is going to be the same fire that Jesus himself will bring with him to destroy these people that don't believe. So it's contradictions all through this verse, all through this chapter. Think about that.
Contradiction. 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 It ain't no contradiction, you just need to speak.